Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. We are presented by BetMGM. It is Tuesday, May 2nd. Brendan Glasheen, your host, joined by Anthony DeBundo once again, and the triumphant return of Sean Zerillo. Zerillo back on the podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe Payoff Pitch. We greatly appreciate your listenership. Also, a reminder, we are live Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the season. 15-game slate. Everyone's in action on this Tuesday. There's a star player returning tonight. I know DeBundo wants to touch on that and give him his due. But we're going to go to Zerillo first. Sean, hi. Opening pitch, back up. ActionNetwork.com, Action Network app. Zerillo breaks down his projections, his picks for today's slate. So that made me happy to pop that open this morning and see that that's back up. What do you got for us for our best bet today?
Good card for underdogs today. Bunch that I liked. Had a difficult time deciding which I liked for a best bet, but I'm going to go with the first game on the board, the Tigers and the Mets. And I like the Tigers in both halves here. We've talked a bunch this season about the fact that the Tigers not only project better against lefties than righties, but have performed better against lefties than righties for the past two seasons. Last year, they were a league average team against lefties, 27% below average against righties. They have basically carried the same split this year. 6 points below average against lefties, 27% below against righties. So basically the exact same number against right-handed pitching last year and this year, and closer to average against lefties. Joe Lucchesi has pitched well for the Mets, but even though he has an ERA in the twos, his expected ERA based on the quality of contact, the balls and strikes that he's thrown, or the strikeouts and walks that he's generated, I should say, his expected ERA is north of 5. And he's also been far worse against righties than lefties throughout his career, about a run worse against righties. And the Tigers are fully capable of throwing out an all right-handed lineup against them, except for probably one bat. So I do like the Tigers here. Both halves projected them closer to plus 105, plus 110. I like them down to plus 112 for the first 5 innings and plus 117 for the full game. Plenty of actionability on those lines. It's actually moved against my number since I bet it. So not sure why it's going the other way. I think the Tigers are pretty clear side here based on the offensive splits and being the home team.
All right. They're plus 130 at MGM for the full game, plus 120 first 5. Tigers, Mets, first game of the night, 640. DeBundo, best bet for Tuesday, please.
Yeah, one more comment about Zerillo's thing is that they also had to play 2 yesterday. So they used a lot of the bullpen. And Lucchesi has not really been going particularly deep, coming back from, getting built up again off injury, off Tommy John. So there is the concern that the Mets bullpen was heavily used yesterday. They had a bullpen game in game 1 and then used pretty much all of their high leverage guys in game 2. So a lot of bullpen usage for the Mets.
And then into travel overnight too. That's not an easy day.
Exactly. Yeah. So I am taking the over 8.5. There's 8.5 out there. You can also find a 9 and even money and up to minus 105 on the Cardinals and the Angels over. This is all about our classic Cardinals versus a left-handed pitcher split where they project as one of the best offenses in baseball. I know that Nolan Arenado looks like he's been kind of battling some kind of injury, and he's probably their best lefty masher in that lineup, but they have a very platoonable group as well. You can put, O'Neill, Arenado, and Goldschmidt in the middle. And really, hit lefties well and see them well. So I like that matchup for them against Patrick Sandoval, who's kind of an enigma of a pitcher. It's hard to really get a strong read on what Sandoval is. He's consistently, been beating his projections, like his xERA versus actual ERA. He's been better than that, the last 2 years. But the strikeout rate is down pretty considerably this year, and that is definitely raising some red flags. He's always had some command issues, and those continue this season. But really, it's the drop in the strikeout rate for me that has me most concerned about Sandoval, because he's putting a lot more balls into play. And on the other side, Steven Matz. I know that the Cardinals have a couple reclamation projects in the starting rotation with him and Flaherty, but it's just really not working right now, and it feels like that they're not really anywhere closer to getting back. The fastball stuff plus has not really come back on Steven Matz. xERA over 5. The walks have been a huge problem for him. His command has been really poor, and the Angels are also excellent against left-handed pitching. The Angels bullpen's actually been a surprisingly good unit thus far. I'm a little concerned that's probably not going to last when you look at some of the quality of that bullpen, and there could be some regression coming for this Angels bullpen as well. So I like the over 8.5/9 in the Angels and the Cardinals.
Angels team ERA out of the bullpen 3.13.
It's pretty damn good.
Yep, that's a top 10 clip. That's top 8, number 8 in baseball. The Los Angeles Angels bullpen. Which, right, that was not something I thought we would be saying based on what
it's early. I mean, they're not they're not as bad as they were last year. They definitely have a couple more interesting pieces. Like Quijada's decent. Jimmy Herget's hard to hit. And Estevez was a sneaky good signing, but I don't expect them to continue to be a top 10 bullpen. I think they're more around the 15 to 20-ish bullpen. But again, they're hard to project year to year. Like they change a lot.
And that's after trading Raisel Iglesias in the offseason too. So, I mean, they traded away their best reliever. They're doing better. That's an encouraging sign. But yeah, I agree with you, Anthony. I think they're due to regress towards a league average or below average bullpen over the rest of the way.
All right, let's find out if we're going to fade the public. We didn't do this segment yesterday. We did our April state of Major League Baseball yesterday. So let's find out what the people are betting in MLB Tuesday. Twins White Sox is a popular game. 87% of the bets, 98% of the cash coming in on the Twins. We did do a White Sox minute yesterday. Colin Whitchurch was made aware. He wasn't very happy about it. And then 96% of the bets, 94%, and Colin Whitchurch, Action Network editor, does a great job. That's who that is, if you didn't know. 96% of the bets and 94% of the dollars on the Brewers over the Rockies. Rockies continuously get faded. I know, Zerillo, you've picked your spots on when to take Colorado against the favorite and on a nice plus number. We'll go give us your Twins White Sox angle first if you want to take the White Sox and or the Rockies to fade the public. What do you got?
Yeah, I would back the Twins. I would not fade the public with the White Sox, especially today. Joe Ryan in full breakout mode and getting a good matchup against the team who struggles against right-handed pitching. His splitter has been the best splitter in baseball this season in terms of total pitch value. On a per pitch basis, it's still a top 10 pitch and like a top 33% splitter amongst guys who throw splitters. So Ryan adding that splitter to his arsenal, he's brought his expected ERA down to 3. I think he can stay there over the remainder of the season. He looks like the Twins' best pitcher. In terms of, and I'm including Pablo Lopez in that analysis, by the way, I think Joe Ryan is better than Pablo Lopez. So Joe Ryan, full breakout mode. Twins first 5 up to about -170 would be my price target. Michael Kopech is either putting pitches down the middle of the zone and getting crushed or walking the bases loaded. It's been very bizarre for him. His stuff is up, but his location is way down. So not sure what's going on with Kopech, but he's way out of form. Joe Ryan fully in form at the moment. In terms of the Rockies and the Brewers, we've seen Freddie Peralta pitch pretty well this season for the Brewers. He had a rough last year, was injured, came back, wasn't 100%. Back in form this year, but I also like Ryan Feltner. And Ryan Feltner was a guy who I initially bet against at the start of his major league career because the projections did not like him. But the more I've seen him pitch and the more that he has pitched, the better his underlying indicators are becoming. He can be a back end number 4, number 5 type starter, but not a replacement level pitcher. Somebody who's actually capable of taking the ball and being a slightly, not slightly above average, an average major league pitcher over the course of the full season, even pitching at Coors Field. So Ryan Feltner, decent stuff. I would play the Rockies at +150 or better. There is one book that is there. The other books are kind of at +140, +135. So wait for the market to get closer to +150 on the Rockies. I think it will get there. We're just going to wait closer to first pitch.
All right, very good. And Ryan has pitched great against formidable lineups. The Yankees a few times, Houston mixed in there. So yes, he's not only been off to a tremendous start, but it's against really good teams.
He's confident too. Like Kyle Bradish, I talk about a lot, aggressive with the fastball. Feltner is very confident and will throw the fastball in the zone. He's not a guy who's going to nibble and walk 7 guys. He will be pretty aggressive and fearless in terms of getting hit. So there's starts where he's walked 5 guys this season, 3 guys in other starts, but he's not trying to nibble and avoid, damage. He's aggressive with his pitches. So I like that bulldog mentality.
He beat Nestor Cortez last time out in his appearance against the Yankees head to head. DeBundo, Twins getting the love against the White Sox. When we talked about Chicago yesterday, they just beat the Rays to snap a losing skid. And then Brewers getting a lot of attention over the Rockies. What would you like to do? Fade the public or no?
Yeah, I bet Minnesota yesterday, and still sort of like them. It is getting a little expensive, like Sean mentioned. We talk about Joe Ryan. I think we talked about him last week, Brendan. We bet him Cy Young.
That's right.
And
30
I
to
feel
1?
very good about that. What's that?
30 to 1?
40 to 1.
40 to 1.
I found a
Good bet.
40 on him after the good start. Sean mentioned the splitter. There's only there's less than 15 pitchers that have 3 pitches that register 110 or better by Stuff Plus in starters in all of baseball. And Joe Ryan is one of them. So, clearly having that third option, he's a very fastball heavy guy to begin with, but has the splitter for the lefties, the slider for / sweeper for the righties. He's been a very effective pitcher, and I think he'll continue to do that. I like Ryan a lot more than Kopech. Kopech is first percentile barrel rate. He's been barreled 23% of his batted balls have been barreled, which is very alarming. I don't expect that to continue, but that's over 74 batted ball events. So we're not talking a tiny, tiny sample for a pitcher to have that high of a barrel rate. And that's the reason his xERA is up over 9. So I bet the Twins, and I'm happy to lay the juice there. And then the other matchup, don't have a ton on it. So I will pass on that one.
Yeah, typically early in the season, when you see that,
back.
I was just going to say with Kopech, typically early in the season, when you see that ERA over 7, the expected ERA, expected metrics are like 4.55. His expected ERA, as Anthony said, is 9. He should be even worse than he's been already. I believe he's given up 8 home runs in 5 starts. It probably could have been more based on where he played, the wind. Kopech has been awful. Probably been the worst pitcher in baseball to this point in the season.
And Zerillo, as you pointed out in opening pitch, you're interested potentially in an over in the Minnesota-Chicago game.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's less likely that Kopech comes out and throws a gem than Joe Ryan just has a bad day and has a bad start. Kopech is pitching so poorly right now. If he comes out and throws a shutout, I would be flabbergasted, but especially with the Twins' offensive quality. But Joe Ryan having an off night is certainly feasible, even though he's pitching so well. So I do like the over here, given the fact that I expect a blow up from Kopech on a typical night, but just where the line is, I projected this closer to 9.2. So over 8.5 to -118, over 9 even money. Both bets for me. And as we're going to get to some totals later, but Anthony and I are in the same page as his best bet as well. The over in St. Louis. I'll give a little more analysis on that in a bit.
Okay, very good. Underdogs that we like.
About that, we don't know the status of Luis Robert.
Yes.
Robert. He is questionable to play today. That's a huge loss in the middle of that lineup. And defensively for the White Sox in center field, they are not a good defensive team, especially in the corner outfields. And so not having Luis, who's excellent in center. Tim Anderson is also expected back today. And Benintendi is questionable. So there's a lot of major question marks about the White Sox lineup and what it's going to look like from a defensive and offensive perspective to monitor. And you may see Minnesota take even more money if Lubob is out.
Lubob already not hustling out ground balls. I
don't know if that was an energy effort thing or he actually had a tight hand.
Okay. All right.
They did keep him out Sunday, so I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, but I mean, this White Sox team in shambles. Romy Gonzalez still on the major league roster somehow?
Dropped a fly ball yesterday, 2 days ago.
Arguably the worst regular that I've seen get over 20 games in a major league season in my lifetime.
Luis Robert said the reason he didn't hustle out to first base in the White Sox game, April 29th, which was Saturday, is because he had a right hamstring issue. He didn't want to tell his manager because he didn't want to miss tonight's game, which was yesterday.
They kept him out Sunday. So
Sunday.
They scored 12 runs, but it was it's definitely a big loss for them.
All right, very good. This might be it's not daily. We're here 3 days a week, but this might turn into a 3 times a week White Sox minute bashing. I miss Colin. And Colin's not here to defend himself, but I think Colin would be with us on this. So,
I mean, it was my favorite one total under for the season, and I have the receipts of the comments on the Action Network tweets when that was sent out about, this is a terrible bet. The White Sox, didn't underachieve last season. I got the receipts, people. You were all wrong. Wins. This team sucks.
Yeah. Well, the not only the Tony La Russa thing, but somebody I mentioned was like, all you analytics guys all love the under 83.5, and yet it hasn't moved. What does that tell you? And I'm like, well, it tells me that the market's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably got more pushback on that than other bets. I don't know if it was because the tweet said that it was my best bet, but people, I mean, I got it. Like the roster, the 25-man roster, when fully healthy, looked like a playoff team, but there was no chance it was ever going to stay healthy.
8-21, Chicago White Sox through 29 games. All right, let's go to our favorite underdogs for tonight. Zerillo, you're looking towards, Dabundo's on the same game, but two different angles. So you're going to San Diego, 9:40 start, Reds and Padres, Waka, Ashcraft, the pitching matchup.
Yeah, Anthony tried to bully me into picking a different underdog because he didn't want to have the same underdog bet. BJ and I have had good luck this season with consensus underdogs. So we're going to go with the consensus underdog play today. Anthony and I both like the Reds first 5 in full game. A lot of these underdogs we bet do not have a definitive advantage anywhere in the matchup. You can say the Reds have a definitive starting pitching advantage in this game. Oftentimes, I'm like, favorite has the starting pitching advantage, bullpen advantage, offensive advantage, but I like the underdog down to this number. Well, we actually get to back the better starting pitcher here. Graham Ashcraft, compared to his teammates, Lodolo, Hunter Green, not going to get you nearly as many strikeouts. And the Reds have been a bottom 5 defensive team for the past 3 years. They are awful defensively. Remember when they tried Eugenio Suarez at shortstop? That shit was hilarious. But they're still terrible defensively. And Ashcraft, who has a 55% ground ball rate, is going to continue to get hurt by his defense. The Padres, conversely, better offense, better defense, better base running, better position player group, better bullpen behind Waka. But Michael Waka this year is expected ERA about a 1.5 higher than what Ashcraft is doing. I do like the Reds quite a bit here. The number has moved down, but still within range of my price target. So plus 134 first 5, plus 145 full game. And then also the under, even though I'm low on Waka, temperatures are going to be in the high 50s here at first pitch in San Diego. Normally 60s, 70s. 9 mile an hour blowing in from left field is the wind. So I made this closer to 8. Would bet the 8.5 to minus 106, but certainly prefer the Reds as the underdog side. Total, that's fine. Would just bet the Reds.
And Dabundo, your angle, your underdog play is also an angle on Cincinnati, but different direction.
No, I mean, I like the same bets. First 5 full game. Sean and I put it in the
I
doc
apologize. Okay, very good.
Within a minute of each other. Yeah. Michael Waka's fastball is one of the worst in all of baseball so far this season. And I don't really think it's going to be making a comeback. If you look at some of the people he's listed around, a bunch of soft tossing lefties, Austin Gomber, Kyle Freeland, Noah Syndergaard. Those are the fastballs that he's down. Zach Plesac. So he's in comparison with Luis Sessa. It's a really bad list of people that you want to be named with for fastballs, and it's getting hit much harder this year. His peripherals are about the same, strikeout minus walk, to last season when he was a perfectly capable pitcher, but he's just getting hit harder this year. And I think that the reason for that is that his fastball is getting squared up more, and you can see that in the numbers. So the Reds are very bad. They're a very bad baseball team. I try not to bet them often, but with Ashcraft, who has one of the best cutters and / slider combinations in all of baseball, I think it's a good matchup for the Reds. So I took them in both halves. Actually, the Padres took a lot of money last night overnight, and then it's come back down this morning. So definitely some market love for the Reds this morning.
You said a phrase that I can't bypass. A bunch of soft tossers like Noah Syndergaard. That just sent shivers up my spine. I can't believe that's how far he has fallen. That we are now grouping him in with guys like Austin Gomber in terms of being soft tossers. Poor Noah.
Kenta Maeda's down there too. He's in that group now. He's got the worst fastball.
Yeah, like you said, 93% of the dollars on this game are coming in on Cincinnati. So, actually, I meant to ask you guys this in sort of the recap. And Zerillo, you may have touched on this last year. Is there a reason why? I think I might know why, but I don't know exactly why. When you do first fives, do you ever consider run lines?
Oftentimes if I project a first spot, it's when they're close, when it's close to pick them. So usually if I make a team like minus 105 and I can get like a plus 115 or plus 120, I can also get like a even money plus a half a run. And if I think the wrong team is favored and I can get the plus half a run at a good price, I usually take it because it's very likely to end in a tie in the first 5 innings, but I'm getting the plus half on the team that I think should be favored. So.
But you would only do it when you get the plus, not the minus.
Yeah, I almost always take the plus. If I would say the times that I'm betting spreads, 90% of the time it's taking a plus. Very rarely have I laid the half a run with like a huge money line favorite that I just didn't feel like laying the juice that day. But more often than not, I just eat the juice and bet the money line, take the push.
Okay. Bundo, you have anything to add on that? I was just curious because I know
not particularly. I mean, if it's a extreme, like I think Mason Miller's first start, I took a plus a half against the Cubs, I think it was, where you could get like even money on the plus a half, and Oakland first 5 was like plus 140.
Mm-hmm.
That was a situation where I took the plus a half. I think only in extreme bullpen splits, I'll just probably do what Sean does and split the first 5 full game.
I should comment though, like the reason why is that spreads often have a bigger split in terms of the line than money lines do. So we talk about 10-cent lines, 20-cent lines, right? So in the money line market for a game, the favorite might be minus 140, the underdog might be minus 120. So there's a 20-cent split in the line. But in the spread at the same book, there might be a 30-cent split at the line. The line might be just whatever game. It might be even money to lay 1.5 and minus 130 to get the 1.5. So just in terms of how the books are going to add vig onto the spread market makes it more profitable to bet the money lines because you're just paying less vig to bet into it.
Okay, very good.
I do the same thing with soccer. Actually, there's a lot of parallels.
And for example, today the Reds plus a half a run is minus 105 at BetMGM. So you're not getting quite plus money, but
yeah, no, I wouldn't bet that.
Okay, very good. Let's do Reds first 5, Reds full game, underdog of the day. They're in alignment, DeBundo and Zerillo. Okay, some final bets, as Zerillo mentioned, some totals he wants to touch on. One of them in which you are on the same side as DeBundo with Angels and Cardinals.
Yeah, both teams project extremely well against left-handed pitching. The Cardinals, #1 team against lefties last season, #3 in 2021, and still project as the best team against lefties this year. Paul Goldschmidt, just digging into splits last night, I thought it was funny. So since the start of the 2021 season, Goldschmidt has a 217 WRC plus against lefties. Good Lord. But they have 7 guys on their roster who have a WRC plus at least 30% better than league average against lefties. Jordan Walker was also 20% above in his brief sample. And the Angels, who already had Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, who killed lefties, they now added Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Drury, Gio Urshela. All of those guys hit lefties very well. So there's a reason why the Angels have performed very well against lefties this season. They added guys who hit lefties well. And even though they struggled against left-handed pitching last season, I actually think they can continue to be a top 10, top 5 offensive team versus lefties with this roster that they have. Ohtani also hits lefties very well. So the first 5 over 4.5, minus 125, the full game over 9 to even money. Both bets that I like between LA and St. Louis. The Marlins and Braves over 7.5. I'm continuing to find ways, I guess, to bet against Sandy Alcantara. Sandy, we talked about a lot last season, right? Because he didn't have the walks or strikeout numbers that you would typically associate with a low expected FIP. Guys who have strikeout and walk numbers closer to league average are going to generate expected metrics closer to league average. But Sandy generated a ton of weak contact, ground balls, pop-ups, etc. While his ground ball rate is down 10% this year, his pop-up rate is at 0%. He was at 12% last year. He had a really high pop-up rate, especially for a ground ball pitcher. So there were all these free outs that Sandy used to generate. They're not there anymore. His stuff is intact. His swinging strike rate is at the highest point of its career. I don't know what is going on with him. I really don't. There's nothing under the hood that says he should be doing as poorly as he is, but teams are hitting him harder. His strikeout and walk rates are trending in the wrong direction. I'm not a Bryce Elder guy, and Bryce Elder kind of helps get this one to the over too. So Sandy being down, me viewing him as closer to a number 2 starter, and Bryce Elder just not being a guy I'm particularly high on. I like the overs in both halves in Miami. The first 5 over 4 you could take to -120. The over 7.5 or over 8 up to -106 is where I would bet the full game over to. So I like both of those totals. And then I just want to mention the Phillies. The Phillies probably would have been my favorite bet, my favorite underdog bet. The lines moved in closer to where I had them. I like them +135 first 5, +140 full game. Matt Strahm has been good to us this season. He's in good form right now. His velocity is starting to dip the more starts he's taking, which is a bit concerning. And also, even though Bryce Harper is in the middle of the Phillies lineup tonight, did not have a single rehab game. I don't really know how well prepared he is. And coming off of Tommy John surgery, it's very likely that he sees a power decline for the remainder of the season. So kind of projecting Harper where he was last year. I don't think he's going to be as good as that out of the gate. But still see an edge on the Phillies. So as I said, +135 first 5, +140 full game. If it gets there, you can bet it. Just it's moved down since last night.
All righty. Very good. And I'm curious when the market might correct itself on Sandy Alcantara if indeed it does not go well again tonight. Now he's going to.
It never did last year, Brandon. We bet Sandy throughout the year last year, and
he was good last year. That's what I'm saying.
He was good last year, but it was the underlying indicators thing, right? Where I think people who factor in the stuff, as I mentioned, expected FIP, the under the hood metrics, they said he was due to regress, and he never did. But I kept saying he wasn't going to because of the weak contact stuff. Well, now the weak contact stuff is gone.
Yeah.
And the metrics are trending in the wrong. I mean, literally, like ground ball rate down 10%, fly ball or infield fly ball rate down 12%. That's a huge chunk of batted balls that were previously killed by the defense. So, yeah, there's something off. But I think the reason is that the market was already expecting this and it finally happened, but I don't necessarily think it was justified that they were waiting around for it.
So you think the market has caught up? You think it's right in terms of total?
I haven't shown an edge going on or against him all year. I think it's been right. But I do think the totals maybe have been a bit low potentially because I don't know. I bet a lot of Marlins overs.
You're talking about money
offensively. Maybe it's just like
money line
with the Marlins where I'm too high in their offense.
I got you.
But it's not something I'm betting consistently. It's this. There's definitely a reason it's on the Sandy start, and there's other Sandy starts I bet overs this year.
I got you now. But you're talking about.
I think there's a couple things, right? So I guess my question is, the first thing that we have to get to is like, do pitchers control BABIP and how much can they control BABIP is like a really big question. And obviously like Sandy was an outlier last year, and you can make the saying, well, he's probably not going to continue to do that forever. And whatnot. He could just be getting unlucky with, like it's the opposite in this season. But yeah. I think what Sean mentioned about the peripherals is concerning. Like you can be an elite pitcher if you have elite BABIP control at 23% strikeout rate. But once you're getting down to 20, it's just there's not enough room to outrun that, I think. And that's what Sandy's running into. And now he's walking more guys. I mean, his walk rate's up over 7%. So you're putting more traffic on the bases. You get unlucky 1 or 2 times. I have faded Sandy a couple times. The Phillies tagged him for 13. And then he's now had back-to-back starts against Bryce Elder, who I know Sean and I are not high on, Stuff Plus hates. And he's a very soft-tossing righty, throwing in 90 miles an hour. So kind of a junk baller pitcher. This is the second straight start he's going to make against the Braves. So there's immediate familiarity there. And this is the second straight start he's going to make against Elder. And I always like backing the hitters the second time they see a guy in a week. We've had a lot of those outings this season already. And that game did go over. They hit Elder pretty hard. And Elder gave up, I think it was 3 solo shots. And then the bullpen for the Marlins blew the game after Sandy was pretty good for the majority of that one. But that was over 8, closed 8.5. Now you switch the ballpark, you go to Miami, down to 7.5. Still think it's a little too low. So I agree with Sean. I'm on the over. Happy to fade Sandy. I just think that you're seeing the limits of how good you can really be with a 20% strikeout rate. And then I guess the other thing is, how have you adjusted your projection on Sandy? Because I know we've talked about this, maybe it was like 4 weeks ago now, that you thought Sandy was a somewhat depleted or downgraded pitcher. If you've downgraded him in hindsight, wouldn't the market have also done the same?
Yeah, I mean, as I continue to factor in 2023 data, he's slowly moving down. So coming into the year, I probably had him as about wherever his expected ERA finished last year, about 2.6.
2.9.
Yeah, so like below sub 3. Now I have him at 3.6. So he's a number 3 starter at the moment.
Also, the
Bryce
run
Elder I
environment
have at
changed.
4.4. Bryce Elder is like a borderline number 4, number 5 guy. So Sandy is pitching like a mid-rotation guy. You sort of average his expected ERA last year with the number this year is at 3.9. So projections, preseason projections, bringing him down closer to where he was last year for me. But yeah, it's all trending in the wrong direction. And if you'd asked me the question a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I probably had him at 3.1. So we moved a full run over the course of a month. We went from 2.6 to 3.1, now 3.6.
Right. I think a lot of that, also the run environment did change, but certainly.
I'm talking about like on the same scale. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not talking about the run environment adjusting. I'm talking about on the same scale as a pitcher. The run environment adjustment I make after, I have sort of like my baseline for these guys. And then I can factor in the run environment.
The context neutral, like ERA.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Marlins are favored -135 full game, -145 first 5 with Sandy Alcantara on the mound. The team has lost each of his last 3 starts in the early part of the season, and the Marlins have actually been playing better baseball. So is he going to be the one that does them in? They've won 4 in a row.
Yeah, they're above 500. They're playing well.
Well,
the fish.
That's the irony of all this, right? Is that he was a big reason why you wanted to watch the Marlins.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Pirates with O'Neal Cruz. The Pirates are killing it without O'Neal Cruz. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
The best players on these awful teams are giving them nothing, and they're having their best seasons in a long time. It's fun. But yeah, I really wish O'Neal was there. The NL Central would be so much more fun right now.
Still
All right,
is. Pirates, they have Connor Joe. They don't need O'Neal Cruz. Jack Sawinski.
And they have the brother of an NFL first round draft pick. So they're in good shape.
Cameron Smith and Jigba.
Maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba can pull a Deion Sanders and give the Pirates a boost in their playoff push this year. I don't know if Jackson's ever picked up a bat, but
he was at Red Sox Pirates at Fenway Park in April. Watch his brother play because I think he was on a visit in Foxborough.
He's an elite athlete. Just give him a bat. I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah. Okay, DeBundo, you got a couple more, and I know you want to have a Phillies / Bryce Harper minute. And please, when you factor in Bryce being backed, so Zerillo has shown a little concern that Bryce didn't do a rehab stint. How long is it going to take for Bryce Harper to get back into mid-season form?
A month.
All right, so that's not good.
I think that's reasonable. Like, people forget because he went so insane in the playoffs and was ridiculous in October. Bryce Harper was hitting like 200. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but he hit like 200 with like a 75 OPS plus or WRC plus. After returning from injury, he broke his thumb on a fastball from Snell in July, came back in late August, and he was not very good. He was awful all of September, and then kind of found his swing in the first round of the playoffs and found the power again. So, I'm expecting him to be bad. Bryce himself has said that he's going to be terrible. I mean, he was joking about it with Dave Roberts yesterday when Dave was like, why don't you sit out another week? And he said, I'm going to be terrible anyway. Don't worry. I think there is going to be kind of a nursing back into this for Bryce. So, but even besides that, this is the favorable split for the Phillies against a lefty and Urias. The worst split for the Dodgers against Strom, who's also a lefty. Dodgers project much better against righties. And the strikeout rates from Strom, I can't ignore them. I mean, it's not like an overwhelming stuff guy, but he's striking out over 30% of hitters. And I know the velo dipped a little bit. They have been managing his pitches. They took him out a little earlier last start after pushing him 2 starts ago. So they are being very mindful of that. They have all of their high leverage guys behind available to use to try to shut this game down. So I think this should just be closer. And I would probably bet this with or without Bryce Harper, just because the Phillies do have a pretty solid platoon against lefties. They put Sosa, Bohm in there, and hit lefties decently well. Generally, Schwarber hits lefties well, so it's a pretty decently good matchup for them. Anyway,
I just want to mention too, when you factor in that Julio Urias also struggled in 2 WBC starts against Colombia and Puerto Rico, his line this season is pretty bad. He's gotten roughed up in back-to-back starts now. WBC walks and strikeouts are still good. He's just a weird guy. Urias has never been a pitcher I've been able to accurately identify what makes him great. He generates weak contact like Sandy.
That's it.
But yeah, it's like, it's Dodgers magic. It's Dodgers devil magic. And they've always had a good defense. Now they're not as athletic. So is he a guy like Sandy without the shift, without as good of a defense behind him? He's just going to completely fall apart? Maybe. I've always been, I guess, lower on Arias than the market. And we keep seeing value betting against him here, and he's getting roughed up. So I don't know. I'm high on Stromlo and Arias, but yeah, either way, I like the Phillies in this matchup.
Yeah, and the Dodgers, like you said, like losing Bellinger hurts their center field defense. Playing Mookie at short, I know Mookie's like looking good, okay, but like he's probably not a plus defender there, given that he's never played it. So like there are real defensive downgrades, and I think that has certainly had an impact on Arias. And again, it's the ultimate question. Like if you're a guy who thinks you can consistently, create weak contact, you are much more prone to being, the guy who gave up hard contact for a month or 2 months or a season. If you're not able to consistently strike guys out at a high rate.
Bundo, you've got one more for us. You have Tyler Wells in Baltimore going today, and then you've got...
it's Tyler Wells day. I texted Zerillo last week when he bet against Tyler Wells, and I said, it's nothing sacred. And Wells shoved it and destroyed the Red Sox. He was fine, but the Orioles won.
He destroyed him. Yeah, he was fine.
I mean, is nothing sacred. I mean, it's Tyler Wells. I mean, another story of kind of what the whole conversation's been about BABIP. Wells is doing it again, and he's consistently undervalued by the market because his BABIP induced is really weak. But the thing I've really liked about Wells is he's cut the walks. He was walking 6-7% of guys last year, and he would run into some trouble because of it. He'd give up the occasional big home run, and it would kind of hurt his numbers. But he's not walking anybody this year, so his peripherals are heading in the right direction. He's still getting the pop-ups and the weak contact, and I love the Orioles in this matchup. So I'm laying the juice here again. I know it's starting to get a little expensive. I think like minus 170 might be a little too expensive now, but I like the Orioles.
Yeah, I would say the difference between Wells and Sandy and Arias, Wells is a pop-up guy. He's a weak contact fly ball guy. And even though that may get a little scary in the summer months, particularly once he gets outside of Baltimore and doesn't have that crazy left field wall behind him protecting him from some homers, but I would trust a guy giving up pop-ups over a guy giving up ground balls without a shift right now.
Orioles minus 160. Both first 5 and full game. Okay, and before I forget, again, I should have said it off the top, but we've got it. Didn't forget to get to it. Dinger Tuesday to Bundo.
Yeah, Chapman has the best barrel rate in baseball. He's plus 430 to homer in Fenway Park tonight. Pretty favorable matchup. Houck's very good against righties, but he does have a home run problem. So I'm going to go with Chapman plus 430, and then Ryan McMahon at Coors plus 500. McMahon's upped his exit velocities this year. He's barreling the ball a little bit more. 5-1 against Freddie. Traditionally very, very good against fastballs. And Freddie Peralta throws a lot of fastballs. His barrel rate for McMahon, 12 barrels and 62 batted balls. That is about double his career high. So very impressive stretch from both those hitters, and 5-1 at Coors, always enticing.
Cosign on McMahon, also a guy with huge home road splits.
Yeah, he's striking out more, and he's clearly trying to pull it more. Like if you look at his batted ball data, and I don't care if he strikes out. I'm looking for homers here. So
844 OPS at Coors, 648 on the road. Correct.
And what's he at? Plus 500?
5-1. Yep.
Okay. Tanner Houck, 3 home runs in 26 innings. That's not awful, by the way.
He's got the splitter now. It's interesting. He's got the splitter. I'm excited about it because it might be able to get out lefties finally.
All right. Fair enough. Chapman.
Not that the Jays have any lefties really, but.
Right. Okay.
So I guess it's our show now.
Chapman hasn't homered in a minute. It's Houston series. All right. We'll see.
I don't expect him to maintain a barrel rate of, at 30%, but that would be better than Aaron Judge last season. So 32%. Obviously, he's not going to continue that level of production, but it's a clear sign that he's figured some things out, using opposite field more as well. The ball's traveling more to the opposite field, so that's really helped Chapman.
DeBundo, are you on Friday?
I am.
Oh, okay. We can get to this Friday, but the Red Sox and Phillies are starting a series.
Yeah, it's just a
this
great weekend, man. I mean,
same time.
I
when
went
the
0-2
Celtics
on
go
my
to
pod
Philadelphia.
picks yesterday on baseball, so not great, but Sixers never in doubt.
Should
Sorry,
not have
Brendan.
gone. No, you're not sorry. I shouldn't have gone there. Okay. Good episode. A lot of good stuff in there. I know Zarella missed out yesterday on our state of the league, state of baseball. But I think we worked a lot in some White Sox bashing, Sandy Alcantara panicking. Good stuff. Bryce Harper's return. A lot of good stuff mixed in with the picks. Thanks to Zerillo and DeBundo. Sean Zerillo's opening pitch write-up is available at actionnetwork.com and the Action Network app. We return for the podcast on Friday, May 5th. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast presented by BetMGM. Talk to you Friday. Good luck.